In California, grounding a slab floor when a grounding rod is used is a requirement. The purpose of grounding electrical systems is to provide a low impedance path for fault current to return to the source. This path facilitates the operation of overcurrent protective devices like circuit breakers or fuses, quickly disconnecting the power in the event of a ground fault. Grounding helps to prevent electrical shock hazards and reduces the risk of fire. The National Electrical Code, or NEC, provides standards for grounding and bonding electrical systems. While the NEC is not law unless adopted by a local jurisdiction, it serves as the basis for most electrical codes throughout the United States, including California. The California Electrical Code, or SEC, is based on the NEC, but it can include amendments specific to California. When installing a grounding system, it's crucial to adhere to the specific requirements outlined in the CC. A grounding electrode system typically consists of one or more grounding electrodes. Common types of grounding electrodes include ground rods, ground plates, and metal underground water pipes. Ground rods are often used because they are relatively easy to install. The code specifies requirements for the size, material, and installation depth of ground rods. Typically, ground rods must be at least 8 feet in length and made of materials such as copper or copper-clad steel. They must be driven into the ground so that at least 8 feet of the rod is in contact with the soil. In some cases, where bedrock is encountered, the rod can be buried horizontally. The NEC section 250.52 specifies what can be used as grounding electrodes. Concrete encased electrodes are addressed, and these consist of at least 20 feet of bare copper conductor that is at least 488 inches in diameter. The conductor must be encased by at least 2 inches of concrete and located within the footing or foundation that is in direct contact with the earth. Supplemental grounding electrodes are addressed in NEC section 250.53. This allows for using multiple types of grounding electrodes to enhance the effectiveness of the grounding system. If a single grounding electrode, such as a ground rod, has a resistance to earth of more than 25 ohms, it must be supplemented by an additional electrode. The supplementary electrode should be placed at least 6 feet away from the primary electrode. The purpose of grounding the slab floor relates to equipotential bonding. Equipotential bonding involves connecting all metal parts that are likely to become energized to the grounding system. This helps to minimize voltage differences between different metal parts, reducing the risk of electric shock. Metal parts that should be bonded include metallic water pipes, gas pipes, and metal frames of buildings. In the case of a slab floor, if there are any metal components embedded in the slab, such as reinforcing steel or metal conduits, they should be bonded to the grounding system. This is especially important in areas where there is a high risk of moisture, such as bathrooms or laundry rooms. Grounding and bonding requirements are intended to create a safe electrical environment. By providing a low impedance path for fault current and minimizing voltage differences, these measures protect people and property from electrical hazards. It is important to note that electrical codes and regulations can vary depending on the specific location and the type of installation. When working on electrical systems, always consult the latest edition of the NEC in the local electrical codes to ensure compliance. Additionally, it is recommended to hire a qualified electrician to perform electrical work, as they have the knowledge and experience to ensure that the installation is safe and code compliant. When installing a grounding system, several factors must be considered to ensure its effectiveness. The soil conditions play a significant role in the performance of a grounding electrode. Soil resistivity affects the resistance of the grounding electrode to earth. Soil resistivity varies depending on the type of soil, moisture content, and temperature. Sandy soil typically has a higher resistivity than clay soil. Moist soil has a lower resistivity than dry soil, and frozen soil has very high resistivity. To ensure a low resistance connection to earth, it may be necessary to treat the soil around the grounding electrode. This can be done by adding a soil conditioning agent such as bentonite clay to the soil. Bentonite clay helps to retain moisture and improve the conductivity of the soil. The size and type of grounding conductor also affect the performance of the grounding system. The grounding conductor must be sized appropriately for the size of the circuit it is intended to protect. The NEC provides tables that specify the minimum size of grounding conductors based on the size of the overcurrent protective device. The grounding conductor can be made of copper or aluminum. Copper is a better conductor than aluminum, but it is also more expensive. Aluminum grounding conductors must be sized larger than copper grounding conductors to provide the same level of protection. The method of connecting the grounding conductor to the grounding electrode is also important. The connection must be made in a way that ensures a permanent and reliable connection. The NEC specifies approved methods for connecting grounding conductors to grounding electrodes. These methods include using listed connectors, exothermic welding, and reversible compression connectors. Grounding systems must be inspected and tested to ensure that they are functioning properly. The NEC requires that grounding systems be tested when they are installed and periodically thereafter. Grounding system testing involves measuring the resistance of the grounding electrode to earth. The resistance should be as low as possible, ideally below 25 ohms. If the resistance is too high, it may be necessary to install additional grounding electrodes or improve the soil conditions. In addition to grounding the slab floor, it is also important to bond other metal parts that are likely to become energized. This includes metal water pipes, gas pipes, and metal frames of buildings. Bonding involves connecting these metal parts to the grounding system using bonding jumpers. Bonding jumpers are typically made of copper wire and must be sized appropriately for the size of the circuit they are intended to protect. The purpose of bonding is to minimize voltage differences between different metal parts. This reduces the risk of electric shock if a person comes into contact with two metal parts that are at different voltage potentials. Grounding and bonding are essential components of a safe electrical system. By providing a low impedance path for fault current and minimizing voltage differences, these measures protect people and property from electrical hazards. When working on electrical systems, always consult the latest edition of the NEC and the local electrical codes to ensure compliance. Additionally, it is recommended to hire a qualified electrician to perform electrical work, as they have the knowledge and experience to ensure that the installation is safe and code compliant. Let's consider some additional details regarding the specific requirements in California. The California Electrical Code, as mentioned earlier, adopts the NEC with some amendments. These amendments may address specific issues or concerns that are relevant to California's unique environment and building practices. For example, California has specific requirements for seismic protection of electrical equipment. These requirements are intended to prevent damage to electrical systems during earthquakes. The CEC may also have specific requirements for grounding and bonding in areas with high levels of moisture or corrosive environments. These requirements are intended to prevent corrosion of grounding and bonding conductors and connections. When designing and installing a grounding system in California, it is important to consult the latest edition of the CEC and any applicable local codes. These codes may have specific requirements that are not found in the NEC. In addition to the code requirements, there are also industry best practices that should be followed when installing a grounding system. These best practices can help to ensure that the grounding system is effective and reliable. Some common industry best practices include using high-quality grounding conductors and connectors, properly preparing surfaces before making connections, and protecting grounding conductors from physical damage. It is also important to properly document the grounding system. This documentation should include a diagram of the grounding system, the size and type of grounding conductors, the location of grounding electrodes, and the results of grounding system testing. This documentation can be helpful for future maintenance and troubleshooting. Grounding and bonding are complex topics, and it is important to have a thorough understanding of the code requirements and industry best practices. If you are not familiar with grounding and bonding, it is recommended to hire a qualified electrician to perform the work. A qualified electrician will have the knowledge and experience to ensure that the grounding system is installed correctly and safely. Now, let's delve deeper into some of the practical aspects of grounding a slab floor in California. When a ground rod is used in conjunction with a slab floor, it's crucial to ensure proper bonding between the ground rod, the concrete encased electrode present, and any metallic components within the slab. Firstly, the ground rod should be installed according to NEC 53, ensuring it's driven deep enough and properly connected to the grounding system. Secondly, if there's reinforcing steel rebar within the concrete slab, it should be bonded to the grounding system as well. This is typically achieved by connecting the rebar to the ground rod or the main grounding conductor using approved bonding clamps and conductors. The size of the bonding conductor will depend on the size of the service conductors, as specified in NEC Table 250.102. Thirdly, if any metallic conduits or pipes are embedded in the slab, they must also be bonded to the grounding system. This prevents these metallic elements from becoming energized in the event of a fault. Again, approved bonding clamps and conductors should be used for these connections. It's crucial to ensure that all connections are tight and corrosion resistant. The environment within a concrete slab can be quite harsh, so using appropriate materials and installation techniques is essential for long-term reliability. Also, consider the potential for future modifications or additions to the electrical system. If there's a possibility of adding circuits or equipment in the future, it's wise to design the grounding system with some extra capacity. This can save time and money in the long run. Remember, electrical codes are constantly evolving, so it's essential to stay up to date with the latest requirements. The California Electrical Code is updated every 3 years, so be sure to consult the most recent edition before starting any electrical work. Grounding a slab floor effectively is a critical safety measure, ensuring that any fault currents are safely directed back to the source, minimizing the risk of electric shock and fire.